Good afternoon, QChurch, and welcome to our house. Whatever's been going on this week that you've loved or loathed, make yourself at home today as we engage with the issues that hold us back from living fulfilling, free lives. Now, when was the last time you visited the Q website? Why not take 5 minutes to have a browse at qyork.co.uk next time you're online? You can find out what's going on at Q throughout the week on our What's On page. Check out the beautiful photos from our get-togethers on the QChurch page. Watch all the QChurch videos on our media page and hit donate if you'd like to support Q financially. If you'd like to make a donation but aren't used to giving online, then you can use the black and white envelopes in front of you today and we'll take a collection later on this afternoon. Our Wednesday night QChurch get-togethers are called IQ, and they give us an opportunity to dive a little deeper into our spiritual journey. This Wednesday at IQ, we will be in the back hall, continuing our quest for an intelligent faith. Doors will open at 7:15 p.m. for a 7:30 start. Entry is free and everyone's welcome. If you're a guest with us this afternoon and you'd like to stay in touch with what's going on here at QChurch, then you can subscribe to our free text messages by simply texting your full name to 07852 622 101. You'll also find a Welcome to Our House card on the pew in front of you, which you can fill in and hand to a steward. After our final song this afternoon, our 5 to 11-year-olds will head out for half an hour of fun with our LifeZone team. There will be drinks and snacks available in the foyer, and we'll have half an hour to relax and chat before collecting our kids from LifeZone and our cars from the car park at 5:30. Now, last Sunday we explored how the ways we think and feel are influenced by the echoes of our past experiences. Things that were said and done years ago can still affect how we experience each moment today. So today we want to explore how we can move beyond these painful moments, leave the echoes of our past behind, and live in a more free, more fulfilling present as we set off on a quest for healing.
When night is falling, when fear is coming, still you're calling me. When faith is lost and my hope exhausted, you will be my strength. When my mind says I'm not good enough, God, you're enough for me. I've decided I'm not giving up, 'cause you won't give up on me. You won't give up on me. Your love is holding on and it won't let go. I feel it breaking out like an echo. Your love is holding on and it won't let go. I feel it breaking out like an echo, echo in my soul. In every season, you keep repeating promises to me. No, there's no stopping what you have started until it is complete. When my mind says I'm not good enough, God, you're enough for me. I've decided I'm not giving up, 'cause you won't give up on me. You won't give up on me. Your love is holding on and it won't let go. I feel it breaking out like an echo. 'Cause you won't give up on me. You won't give up on me. Your love is holding on and it won't let go. I feel it breaking out like an echo. Your love is holding on and it won't let go. I feel it breaking out, breaking out. Your love is holding on and it won't let go. I feel it breaking out like an echo. Your love is holding on and it won't let go. I feel it breaking out like an echo, echo in my soul.
So over the last month or so, we've been taking a journey trying to basically come to terms with our true identity. And we've been encouraged to accept our own sacredness as well as acknowledging the sacredness in all things and everybody else. Because we understood that we'll neither love or save that which we do not experience as sacred. We were reminded of the oneness that we share with all things, that we carry the same DNA as, if you remember a few weeks ago, it was the acorn that had dropped off the tree and was in the grass around. And you're saying, actually, what's in that little acorn is the same that's in us. It's really quite incredible, remarkable. We're all connected, and that we are not merely a drop in the ocean, but we're the entire ocean in a drop. I mean, these are incredible things if we can get our heads around them and embrace them. We learned that our deepest me is God. We are light, and we need to let that light shine. We also reclaimed the word enlightenment because we understood that it's just the capacity to see things differently. And light isn't something we should look at directly. Like when we were singing, I'm thinking, I haven't a clue where I am, it's so bright up here. Because all it does is give you blind spots. And it has. I've proved it. But basically what the light's meant to do is illuminate everything around so we can see better. It enables us to see, and then it also helps us to hear the echoes, those noises from our past wounds that constantly reverberate within our mind. So the light enables us to see our woundedness and to hear those echoes. And we were taught that echoes only bounce off hard surfaces. And if we want to stop those echoes, one of the things that we can do quite simply is to learn to soften our hearts and become vulnerable. And it was lovely last week, particularly when we saw the vulnerability of people on their journey and how that had brought healing to them. So often our hardness, though, is created by protection mechanisms that we feel we cannot live without, but those very things are destroying us because they stop the love getting through. So we will never fix what we're unaware of, but if we're willing to let the light make us aware of those things, then it will give us the opportunity to choose alternatives that are available that we might make a different truth for ourselves. That is what's called freedom, and it was for freedom that Christ set us free. So our task is not to fix the entire world, but to stretch out to mend the part of the world that is within our reach, and that is starting with ourselves. So we're going to start tonight by saying this: if trauma can be passed down through generations, then so can healing. But in order to do this, we must surrender to something beyond ourselves, and that is surrendering to an unconditional love. Now, in this next clip, where we're going to start, we see that where there is great love, there's always miracles. But they do not rest so much in the healing power coming from afar, but more often in our own perceptions being finer. So we want to start with the great encouragement. Your chains can fall off, but you might have to start by doing something you believe you cannot do. And whether it's from the bullying echoes of your past memories or into the dreams of your future, you will need to run into the arms of unconditional love. Now, we have a lot to share tonight, so we may run a little over time, but I'm sure you're going to find it worth it. And don't worry, kids, you'll still get your half an hour in Life Zone. So let's carry on. Thank you.
Look at me, you may think you see who I really am, but you never know me. Every day, it's as if I play a part. Now I see, if I wear a mask, I can fool the world, but I cannot fool my heart. Somehow I will show the world what's inside my heart and be loved for who I am. Who is that girl I see staring straight back at me? Why is my reflection someone don't know? Must I pretend that I'm someone else for all time? When will my reflection show who I am inside? There's a heart that must be free to fly, that burns with a need to know the reason why. Why must we all conceal what we think, how we feel? Must there be a secret me I'm forced to hide? I won't pretend that I'm someone else for all time. Now that my reflection shows who I am inside. Now that my reflection shows who I am inside.
Good afternoon, everyone. I don't know if that song resonated with any of you, but that song perfectly relates to my journey. As some of you might remember, about a year and a half ago, I shared my story. A pastor's daughter who had been completely burned by religion, whose self-worth was practically non-existent, and who struggled with the fear of not knowing what my place in the world was. I felt trapped in an environment where I was never good enough for God or the leadership of the church I was in, so I hid behind a mask of what I thought was expected of me. But through finding a home at Q, I was healing, a lightning tree slowly beginning to grow and flourish within this incredible environment of acceptance and love. But the thing is, that was only the beginning of my healing process. Growing up, my dad would say to me, I want my ceiling to be your floor. And although the sentiment behind that was lovely, it's a phrase that echoed throughout my whole life, particularly within my church life, feeling so much pressure to be good enough, to be the Christian my dad wanted to be. And this was out of a sense of him wanting the best for me. He wanted me to learn from his mistakes, and he never ever intended for me to feel any pressure, but I absolutely did. Trauma comes in many forms, and it's personal. As Chris said last week, we can so often carry past trauma around like a ball and chain. Part of the baggage I was still carrying around was the absolute fear of letting my parents down. So where does this relate to where I am today? Well, when I spoke last, I felt I was doing great, truly beginning to feel like I was taking off the mask I'd been hiding behind. The issue was I'd only identified the cause of my fears. I hadn't actually addressed them. Whenever people would ask me, have you spoken to your parents about this? I'd be absolutely horrified of the idea of having to say anything to them about the issues I'd faced growing up as a pastor's kid. And this became a barrier for my healing. As while I kept hearing that God loves me and that me being me is enough, I hadn't fully taken this on board, and I definitely wasn't willing to remove my ball and chain yet. I was still desperate not to let my mum and dad, or honestly anyone, down. I was fine as long as I ignored the issue, but the what ifs and the what will they thinks were still suffocating me. About 2 months ago, I had an encounter with my parents where some really hurtful stuff was said. I don't think they probably thought about how what they were saying might make me feel, as they were speaking again from a place of love and simply wanting the best for me, but it really, really hurt. After I got over the initial shock, I spoke to some of the amazing people in this room, and me and Theo decided that we needed to sit down and talk things through with them. This absolutely terrified me. But last month, we finally got the opportunity to have the awful, terrifying, nerve-wracking chat with them. As soon as I started talking, the floodgates opened. Everything I'd been hiding for years was out in the open, which left my dad shocked. He'd never realised what had been going on behind the smiles as I'd led worship on stage, or the willingness to always be the first one to open up in prayer. And honestly, what happened that night was incredible. There was such a shift in my relationship with my parents, and now I'm almost excited to spend time talking with them about the big stuff we used to avoid. It made me realise that because I'd simply accepted that there would always be this issue, there was no way it could have just gone away on its own. Continually holding on to what had happened and holding a grudge against my parents meant that I was never going to feel free. I had to actively address the thing that was preventing me from experiencing the fullness of living in freedom. Taking the first step to try and address the thing in your life that's causing you pain can be utterly terrifying. It may seem at first that we're running like Forrest, not really getting anywhere. But although the journey towards healing can be tough and take its time, it's absolutely worth it. I'm still working through this, and who knows how many more masks I'll have to shed in the future. I'm still learning that God made us human, not perfect. But for now, this is the most me I've ever been. My religious leg braces are shattering. I'm free, I'm so loved, and I reckon God thinks I'm pretty all right too. My reflection is finally beginning to show who I am inside. Thank you.
The problem is not the history that we live in, but it's the history that lives in us. A couple of things just to say. For those of you who know my good friend Bob Seymour, he passed away, went to be with the Lord on Thursday afternoon. So I have some sadness. He's been such a good friend. And at my most difficult times, when I thought the people that I was part of would mostly gather around me, I found quite the opposite. Most of them ran away. But people like Bob stood up and said, if anybody's going to sling any mud, it'll hit me first. Where many people said, if there's mud going to be slung, I'm out of here because I don't want any mud on me. So for those of you who knew Bob, we just appreciated his life and wanted you to know the situation. Also, I love technology and hate technology. I love it because of what it gives us the capabilities to do, and I hate it because of what it provides that stops us doing some of the things that could be done better. For example, what we are pursuing right now on a Wednesday night in Understanding the Christ is phenomenal, important, incredible. And we get so many people watching online, which is fine, but that doesn't help us when we're here. So we'd love to see you on a Wednesday. Whatever our impressions of the Bible, and I think the problem is Christianity as a religion has distorted our ability to read the Bible effectively, in that it has given us a preconceived lens through which we try and interpret scriptures rather than allowing them to be what they are. And for example, it's really, really interesting that in Jesus' Sermon on the Mount, which was his major message to people, he never one time told us what we're supposed to believe. He only told us what if you catch the Christ in you, you will do. And yet we've made it all about what we believe and the pressure of what we believe. So when we see it, sometimes we don't understand. And yet the Bible is rich with life lessons and life illustrations. And one of those really connects to where we are tonight when we talk about echoes, because there's a story in Luke chapter 18 of, the Bible calls him a rich young ruler who came to Jesus. You know, in essence, he had money, position, recognition, fame. He at least thought he was somebody, and probably other people thought he was somebody. But in the midst of having all that, he approached Jesus with the question, what do I have to do to get eternal life? Now, I don't know whether his question was based on how we would understand or have been given to understand issues like hell and heaven, because he was a Jew and Hebrew thinking didn't work like that. I think what he was really saying is, I have life and I have money and I have position, I have recognition, but there's something just not quite right. There's just something missing. And of course, the tendency is for all of us, when there's something missing in our lives, we are going to chase it, but very often we are chasing for what it is we're looking for in all the wrong places, because I believe at the core, we are actually spiritual. Now, I don't separate between, carnal and spiritual, but at the core, the real us is that bit on the inside, and we try to mask that, and we try to medicate it by stuff, which can be anything from, hardlining heroin to not being able to miss a game of football, whatever. We medicate what it is that we need. And so this guy was approaching Jesus in that measure. What do I have to do to find what's missing? And it was interesting because when Jesus talked to him, of course, his people will quote to you, Jesus said, go and sell all that you have and give to the poor, and then you'll have riches in heaven. And I've wrongly misinterpreted that Jesus had a problem with the man's wealth, which is not the truth. What Jesus had a problem with is where the man's heart was and where he found his security in his life, knowing that if something didn't change, that was not going to sustain him when the chips were down. So Jesus said something to him which was interesting, because he said, one thing you lack. So this guy seems to have everything. You might feel tonight you've pretty much got your life together, but the one thing you lack is usually the issue that makes the difference between our inner peace, our relationship with the divine, and our being always on the brink of falling off the ladder. One thing you lack. But it's interesting, the one thing he lacked was not to get rid of his money. That was not the point that Jesus was making. Because Jesus' comment had nothing to do with money in his bank balance, but more to do with the deficiency in his heart, the internal and not the external. What Jesus' point was this: you lack the willingness to let go. The very thing that you are chasing to fill the hole that you're trying to fill is the very arena where you might need to have the willingness to let go. So back to what I said at the beginning, we unavoidably all live in history, and that's not a problem. We can't change that, but we can change the history that lives in us, and we've all been shaped by the history that lives in us, the things that have happened, the experiences that we have had, the disappointments, the confusions, and also the elations. And sometimes elations are just as much, because when we get elated, we think, oh, that made me elated, therefore this is it. And so by all of those things, the good and the bad, we find that gets in us. But the one thing we all lack in the context of our spiritual renewal, of the true inner peace, of the connection with God, the God who is, Jesus said, is good, the one thing that we all lack when we get down to it is the willingness to let go. And so part of the challenge tonight is, I want to challenge into you, if you want the answer, if you want your life to blossom, if you want freedom from the echoes and you're prepared to soften your heart, the question is, are you willing to let go? Do you have a willingness to let go of what it is about history that binds you? He couldn't and wouldn't let go of the thing he thought protected him from his pain, his poverty, his rejection, and I'm going to throw another word in which I'll talk about in my next session, the problem of his autonomy. Autonomy is your individual right to decide. It can bring you to life or it can bring you to death. And we're going to talk about that a little bit when I get up again.
But I know your word You gently pick me up and wash me with your love, and opening my ears, you speak the word, healing, releasing all the hurts and fears by the hope that you have placed within me. In between each heartbeat, Lord, I surrender to you. I surrender to you. Everything I am and ever hope to be. I
And we've got a little exercise at the end just to try and help some of you with the very process, so that by received love we can engage in something that might help us to release the echoes of the past and give us an essence of freedom within it. I mentioned at the end of my last talk about this word autonomy. And one thing that we've fought for very much, and it doesn't always go down well, is to free all of you from the shackles of two things. First of all, the old covenant law of Moses written on stone, that thou shalt nots and must nots, and have to comply this way, that way. And the second one from both perceived and unspoken religious pressure that makes us still feel that somehow we have to perform, we have to pretend, and that somehow we earn our validity through the stuff we do. Now, as a pastor, I have to say I don't like that, because it means there's no leverage for getting people to do what you'd like them to do. But having said that, I'm very pleased that we are there. But what it releases is this thing called autonomy, right? We have tried to help you to come to a place where you have the confidence and the willingness to make decisions for yourself, so that I am not a guru making your decisions for you. And also, in some sense, neither is the Bible or anything else, but by what you receive, you're able to evaluate that, take that, understand, and make decisions for yourself. However, autonomy is not always a good thing. So I am in no way wanting to say I don't want you to have autonomy to make decisions, because you should be able to make decisions. But there is a problem that comes by default when we embrace a position of autonomy. And I'm going to show you what I mean by breaking down the word. The first part of the word autonomy is auto. Auto means that you are now in a frame of mind and heart where something happens automatically, okay? So it's going to happen now because we have set in place a system that will be the automatic response. But the next word in autonomy is the word no. So the problem is, if we don't understand truly how to use autonomy in the right way as a person trying to be whole and bring wholeness in our world, what it becomes is an automatic no to everything. I don't have to. The answer is no. Now, I'm fully appreciative, and someone shared this, and I think this is a beautiful statement, that sometimes no has to be a complete sentence, and I utterly agree that sometimes we have to say no. The problem is we can become so automatically accustomed to saying no that actually our first response to everything is no, because something else has happened. You see, the last part of autonomy is auto-know me. Right? My or me. So at the center of all our decisions becomes me and my. Now, that's a problem to me, not because I don't want that to be recognized, but if you know anything about science, biology, nature, creation, ecology, you will know that me and my is dangerous because everything is part of something, and if the no exercises the me to an extent where the me no longer plays its part within the whole, then what you have done is separated yourself, and everything that becomes separated and independent in life dies. You don't want to be the wildebeest at the back of the group, because when you're separated, that's the ones the lions target. That's the ones they pick off. And our bodies, wherever our bodies are not connected, if your body ceases to be connected in a way that it receives the flow of blood that flows through the whole body that is the life, you will get gangrene and that part of your body will die, and if you don't cut it off, it will kill the rest of the body. There is in our meanness and our minus a great danger that actually we set ourselves in a process that doesn't bring us life, but it begins to continually and increasingly separate us from the very things that would give us life, so that by the time we need to experience that life, we've already removed ourselves from what it was that would give the flow. Autonomy seems to emphasize the power to say no rather than the willing choice to say yes. And again, I want you to be autonomous. We want autonomy, the right to decide. But true spiritual autonomy that links the whole man with how the universe works and how you can become whole has to work not on the power to say no, but rather the willingness to say yes. You see, the yes must replace the no for you to be healed. Now, the problem is, when our history affects us and we get the echo makes us say, no, I will not be hurt like that again. No, I will not trust again. No, I will not forgive again. No, I will not be friends again. No, I will not be vulnerable again. So what happens is that our auto-know me, to protect me, I have to say no, and it begins to happen automatically, so then I don't know how to say yes. Now, again, let me talk about the Bible. One of the things I've recognized within the context of the narrative of Scripture, whether you believe it's, written by God, inspired, whatever you believe, the issue is there is a pattern through the whole thing. And the pattern that runs through is that change happened when people learned to say yes. Because in saying yes, they knew they had the right to say no, but they were exercising the willingness to say yes because of what may and what could happen. You see, we can't get beyond where we are unless we take the risk of what could be. That's why Jesus said, follow me and I'll make you. Take the risk to say yes rather than the auto no because of me protecting and something will happen. So we have a Bible that's full of people like, I believe creation said yes. That's why it's all here. Somehow it said, yes, we'll have some of that. A guy called Abraham. God said, leave your country, people, father's house. His whole identity, his whole security was locked up in that. But because he said yes, something changed. Let's take one other that I absolutely love. The whole story of the Virgin Mary and the birth of Jesus is based around a yes. In spite of fear, in spite of concern, in spite of not knowing, there is a yes. Because she realized, if I don't say yes, I'll never become what it is that I could become. Now, yes is scary. Yes is much more scary than no, because no is a shutdown word. Yes is an open door word. Yes is opening the future. No is keeping us connected to the past. So whenever we have auto, no, me, in that form, it will always keep us connected to our past, and therefore we will never have the yes that releases us into something else. I believe that the inner you and the inner me was built to thrive on yeses. Not the negatives of the no, but the positives of the yes. And that there is value as we do that. So, I've got one other thing for you. A bit corny, but it's good. Why not have a bit of corniness? I'd like to change the way we spell autonomy from auto, no, me, to auto, no, me. From auto, N-O, me, to auto, K-N-O-W, me. So that the automatic reaction is not no, N-O, but K-N-O. I want to be known, I want to know, and out of that I want the me to come from the knowing, but the knowing will only come from the yes. And when the yes comes, there is a knowing of yourself. Let me give you one last little thought. When you look in a mirror, what do you see? What does the mirror tell you about you? The truth is, the mirror tells you absolutely nothing. And yet you walk away from the mirror of your life, the mirror of your experience, the mirror of history, the mirror of events, saying, oh, it's terrible. You know, I just feel so bad about myself. I feel so rejected. I feel so ugly. I feel so undeserving. I feel so unwanted. I feel so incomplete. The mirror didn't tell you anything. Mirrors don't talk. The only one talking was you. And your auto, N-O-M-E, was telling you, no, I'm not acceptable. No, I'm not loved. No, this cannot work. No, how can God be real? No, how can this change my life? No. But when you go to the auto, K-N-O-W, I know that this is true. It's a different kind of no. So don't let the no of your humanity, the N-O of your humanity, destroy the K-N-O of your spirituality. You've got to relearn the goodness of yes. And I believe if you just learn that tonight and say, yes, I will, and I'm willing, that something can be released. I pray that will touch your heart and spirit, and that you will be auto, K-N-O-W, me.
What is holding your house down? If you're going to fly, then you're going to have to jettison that which is holding you down. Now, what was interesting about that film is that you looked at the wonderful book and it's got all the lovely memories, and we're thinking, why throw out lovely memories? We're not asking you to do that, but we're wanting you to see it in the light of what we're talking about. Even good things that have become a memory that you're holding on to can still hold you down. But what we're wanting to do is get lift. We want you to fly. There is a meme, I don't know whether it's up there, but it's one that I wrote down this afternoon. If we do not repair our own injuries, then we will be of no help to others. And the issue was with the guy in the film that he couldn't go and help Russell or help somebody else unless that he could get lift for himself. So what we're going to do, bring them up onto this stage. Let the lights get the colour. Come on, we've got our own I bet they're going to try and get up the stairs with them as well. You could, well done. Awesome. So what we're going to do is, like that clip we saw with Dandy Panny, that's a name and a half. I don't think you'll forget that in a while, Dandy Panny. He was saying how emotions could be transferred onto paper. Now, what we're not going to do is have a bonfire in the middle of the stage, so don't worry. But we do have a basket. And what I really would like, and we're taking this very seriously, I'll say to the children, don't you worry about the balloons, because you can have one later. I've got some in the back for you. But this is a very serious moment. If, as we've done this course of teaching over these last few weeks, if the light has shone on some of those wounds from your past and you're thinking, yes, the light has shone on it and I'm aware of it and I actually want to address this, then what we want you to do is maybe come, take a bit of paper and write down something on there. It doesn't have to be a lot. We don't want an epic, because in fact, none of us are going to read it. It's something that you are willing to say, it is this. And then what happens, you can take your piece of paper, fold it up, put it in the basket, and then you're going to go and get a balloon. And then as Joel sings his last song, he's going to be singing about, I'm going to surrender to love and live again. You can take that balloon and let it go. And I don't care if we've got 25 balloons on the ceiling and how long they stay there. But what it will be showing is that you have made the effort to distance yourself from that which has held you down. And you're actually making the effort to say, I will let it go. And I will let my, rather than auto know me, to be a yes. And I'm willing to make the effort to let it go and let healing come for me. So, I know that seems very vulnerable, but I believe that some of you have had a moment over these last few weeks where you've thought, yes, I know that is something that I need to do, and it's going to be the start of my healing. So I'm going to ask Joel to come, and if please take it seriously. Like I say, the children can have balloons in the back. I've done some for you, but I would like this to be a serious moment when basically you can say, right, this is a new day for me. Some of us don't feel that we can change the endings of stories, but actually we can. Let whatever it was that wounded you, how about you rewriting the end and giving it a heroic ending in order that you might fly and that you might get lift. And that's what we want for you today. So let rage turn to peace. Let pain change to power. Let fear change to courage. Hate to love, and let's get some lift tonight. So Joe will come and sing, and we're going to do that together.
These guns are not as heavy as the hearts they defend. And I can't wait to get back home where I can find some rest. I lay down my guns and lift my head. Surrender.